What a terrific group. Thank you for inviting me.
We have a lot to get
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Happy holidays to you, too. Merry
Thank you very much.
All right. Former top cop Loretta Lynch arriving on Capitol Hill this morning, speaking to the House Judiciary Committee and Oversight Committees behind closed doors. House Republicans looking to complete their work as Democrats prepare to take the House majority next month. Top Democrats have vowed to shut these investigations down. A big focus of today's questioning is expected to be Loretta Lynch's infamous tarmac meeting with former President Bill Clinton. That meeting went down at a Phoenix airport in 2016 in the midst of the DOJ's Hillary Clinton email investigation. Just 2 days ago, former FBI Director James Comey testified. Comey also served during the Obama administration, and then Attorney General Loretta Lynch was, of course, his boss. He has called that tarmac meeting inappropriate, and he repeated that to lawmakers. Peter Ducey is live on Capitol Hill with the latest. Peter.
Melissa, Loretta Lynch did not stop to talk on her way in here, and we can't go in there. So what we're doing now is just listening to lawmakers as they come out to take short breaks. I don't want to talk right over this gaggle down there. But from lawmakers who have come out of the hearing, we're told that Lynch is being forthcoming with lawmakers who have questions about why the Obama DOJ investigated the Trump campaign and not the Clinton campaign.
I have now attended the vast majority of these 17 or 18 interviews. It's the same questions over and over again. The interesting aspect of this is that I think that Loretta Lynch is willing to answer all the questions. She hasn't been interrupted even once by any of her attorneys, and there are a lot of attorneys in there. And so I think it's been a free exchange of questions and answers.
Republicans have hinted that they've got detailed questions about the infamous tarmac meeting where Lynch and Bill Clinton huddled in the cabin of a private jet in Arizona while her Justice Department weighed charges against his wife, candidate Clinton. Lynch has insisted it was just too hot to talk outside, but they kept the chat to the topics of grandchildren and news of the day, which was that day Brexit. But Republicans are also curious about why former FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page would text that they knew Lynch would go easy on Hillary Clinton. And this is from the first batch of Comey's testimony 2 weeks ago. John Ratcliffe, the Republican, said, the day before the interview, the Hillary Clinton interview, on July 1st, Lisa Page texted Peter Strzok about Loretta Lynch and about her decision to follow your recommendation and said, quote, yeah, it's a real profile and courage since she, meaning Lynch, knows no charges will be brought. Do you recall reading that text anywhere or hearing about it? And Comey said, I don't remember. I read it. I think I've heard about it in the media. So we don't know how much longer these hallways are going to stay quiet, but it might be a while because lawmakers had more than 5 hours worth of questions for Comey earlier this week. Melissa.
Peter Ducey, thank you so much. Bring it out to the couch. David, what do you think is the value of going over this territory again?
Well, particularly in light of going over the deal with General Flynn and the way he was treated as opposed to the way Hillary Clinton was treated in kind of a similar circumstance in many ways is worthwhile. I think it's clear that while Hillary Clinton was given all kinds of leeway and perhaps even some dare we say it, obstruction of justice. There are suspicions of obstruction of justice from her husband, the former president, to Loretta Lynch. I think it's worthwhile raising all this. And frankly, it's something that's not going to be raised after January 2nd when the new Congress comes into power. So this is kind of the last dash of Republicans. By the way, I got to give her credit. Harris just brought up a terrific point. If they were just talking about grandchildren, I hope you don't mind me using your point. If they were just talking about grandchildren, why couldn't they have done it on the phone? I mean, why did they have to meet at a tarmac in the middle of nowhere? You know, I mean, it's kind of weird.
My point had to do with what taxpayers would want done on the person's time for whom we're paying. It was really just an observation.
It's a good one.
It's like, you know, are they having conversations that as taxpayers we would understand why they would need to get together, you know, and then layer on in the midst of the fact that his wife was under investigation, so on and so forth.
I guess, but Katie, you know, what would we possibly learn that's new? Everybody is so dug into their position and what they think about everything that went on. I just don't know that it's worthwhile to spend time dragging someone back, going over this.
I mean, we've heard from Loretta Lynch once, I believe, in front of congressional testimony. In terms of how this will actually get results, I am cynical that this will get anywhere. Republicans are out of power in the House. Democrats who are taking over the committees have made it very clear that they are shutting down all of the investigations into DOJ misconduct, into FBI misconduct. I would hope that a hearing like this with questions and answers from Loretta Lynch, I'm glad to hear that she's actually being forthcoming, unlike James Comey, who said he couldn't recall 300 plus times and his lawyers continued to interrupt him. I would hope that the end game here would be to treat everybody equally under the law, regardless of whether you're a Clinton or whether you're a Trump. But unfortunately, I think that sand has run out of the hourglass when it comes to how much Republicans can do, and I wish that they had been able to do a second hearing with her sooner.
I guess Kennedy addressed that point. I mean, do you feel like different people are treated differently under the law by the DOJ and the FBI, and does this get us closer to rectifying that?
I don't know that it gets us closer to rectifying anything. I don't think we've seen proof other than McCabe and Comey and Strzok and Page having been removed from duty at the FBI, that things have really changed. And I don't know how Christopher Wray demonstrates that, but what I will say is Comey and Lynch seem to turn on each other. And if you remember, James Comey said in his public testimony that he knows stuff about Loretta Lynch that he can't disclose for a few years. And he was basically saying that he had something over her head. And, you know, he also characterized their discussions in a certain way that cast her in a very negative light. And so maybe this is a chance for her to defend herself and set the record straight. Part of the issue with that tarmac meeting was people didn't trust Hillary Clinton to begin with. They thought that she was shady and that she was making deals in opacity that benefited only herself. And if you remember, Loretta Lynch didn't disclose that meeting on the tarmac.
She got caught.
It was a local reporter in Arizona that did some footwork and, you know, recognized the tail numbers on the planes. Yeah, and then she said jokingly at one point, "Man, I wish that there was a lock on the inside and I hadn't let the president in." And if they were talking about innocuous things like golf and grandkids,
that has its own visual.
Yeah, why would she say something like that and express that kind of regret?
Yeah.
And James Comey is very dismissive with the questioning that he's gotten from these committees. But I have to say, these are still very serious issues. So if the former Attorney General is taking them seriously and acknowledging that, I think that's a benefit for the country to get some of that on the record.
So since there were only, to our knowledge, since she didn't have a lock on the door, Loretta Lynch, since there were only two people who were having this conversation, are we also going to hear from Bill Clinton?
That's a great question.
If you want, as journalists, we know that if you want the whole story, you have to talk with many people, and you have to just listen.
Well,
right? And so are they going to have Bill Clinton on and let him talk about this too? I don't know.
Or President Obama. I mean, President Obama.
Yeah, but he wasn't on the plane.
No, but remember, he said that Hillary Clinton did not divulge any secrets.
He said that on 60 Minutes.
Anything that
right?
did any, yeah, I think he said it several times, as a matter of fact. But the point is that how would he know that if he wasn't getting information he wasn't supposed to get?
But I still don't want that hearsay even from a former president. I want the two people who were in the room.
The reason why Republicans
or the plane
have taken Loretta Lynch back into the public, well, not public, but back into Congress to testify about this is because of the timing of this issue and the way that the situation was handled. Just a week after they had this meeting, there was a huge conflict of interest with Hillary Clinton under criminal investigation during an election, with FBI agents not questioning her and saying, we're going to exonerate you before we even interview you and your inner circle, and then Bill Clinton walking onto this airplane and having this meeting. There were huge questions about whether she should recuse herself. She did not officially recuse herself, and yet there was all this outrage over Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein and now Matthew Whitaker, and Democrats, demanding that he recuse himself from that situation, and yet we had this massive conflict at that point in time.
I want to add something on to that, and I think it's really important because she said, I'm not going to recuse myself. I didn't do anything inappropriate, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to accept whatever recommendation the FBI makes. Now, when James Comey's recommendation was no charges, which isn't the responsibility of a law enforcement organization. When a police officer arrests you, they don't go before a judge and say, what the punishment should be, and they don't list what the crimes are. A prosecutor does that, and that's Loretta Lynch's job, but she abdicated that and, gave it to Comey. So it seems like he gave her cover, which is really weird because he was the one who said, I don't recommend charges. And she said, oh, case closed.
But no matter who's talking, whether it's this or whether it's James Comey when he came out the other day and was addressing the cameras, everybody kind of comes to the same conclusion, although they blame different actors. They say that trust in the DOJ and the FBI has been totally eroded. Comey blames the president, other people blame him and Loretta Lynch, but nobody has a solution to how it's restored, David. How does it get restored?
Well, one thing that you got to do is expose it to sunlight, and that's why I'm for exposing all of these issues that have been covered in darkness with sunlight. And I mean, what happens is once you investigate closely, you find that Mr. McCabe did things wrong, that Peter Strzok did things wrong, and they end up leaving the agencies. You get rid of the bad eggs.
That's just rare.
Comey the other day said, I'm proud of what the FBI did under my leadership. Well, is he proud of what Mr. McCabe did? Is he proud of what Peter Strzok did? He should be asked that question. Are you proud of the relationship that the FBI developed with Fusion GPS, which was funded by a political organization in order to disrupt a political election in this country? I mean, is he really proud of all those things that the FBI did that not only are viewed by most of us as a mistake, but that led to the dismissal of people at the FBI?
Well, and we should point out that somebody getting fired in Washington, D.C. is very rare. So the fact that Andrew McCabe was fired, Peter Strzok was fired, not only just fired, but Andrew McCabe has been referred for criminal prosecution by the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C. Those are actually very big developments. The question is now how Christopher Wray decides to bring other people in to ensure that their political biases are not getting into their work. It's a huge deal. But I do want to say, just based on the way that Washington, D.C. works, usually you screw up and move up. This time, a lot of people have been fired as a result, which is one step towards accountability for their actions.
I feel better. Okay. All eyes on the Federal Reserve.